Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare. I knew it. I knew you'd be getting class. Oh, someone used to school me. Really long ago.
I think we usually keep the door closed during the queue. Or at least
Grantraj srimadbhagavatam. All glory to
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. All glory to Prabhupada.
Do you think you get that other mic stand? I feel like a Christian preacher in a mega church.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if I want to feel like that right now. So this morning we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3 until the status quo, chapter 25, the glories of devotional service. We're on text 12. Text 12. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Okay, that's good. Maitreya Vacha.
Maitreya Vacha.
Iti swamato nirvadyam ipsitam nishamya pumsam apavargavardhanam Vinandya mavatam satam katir Vabhasha ishat smita shobhitanaha nanaha
Maitreya uvacha
Iti samatur nirvadyam ipsitam Nishamya pumsam apavargavardhanam Yavinandyatmavatam satangatir Vabhasha ishat smita shobhitananaha Maitreya vacha Iti samator niravyadamipsitam Nishamya pumsam apavargavardhanam Yabhinandyatmavatam satam gatir. It's a long word, huh? Diyabhina, yeah. Babasha ishat smita shobhitananaha.
Maitreya vacha Iti samator niravadyam ipsitam Nishamya pumsam apavargavardhanam Diyabhinadyatmavatam satam gatir Vasa ishat smita shobhitananaha
Iti samato niravadyam ipsitam Nishamya pumsam apavargavardhanam Diyabhinandyatmavatam satam gatir Vapasa ishat smita shobhitananaha Iti samatur niravadyam ipsitam Nishamya pumsam apavargavardhanam Diyabhinandyatmavatam satam gatir Vapasa ishat smita shobhitananaha
All right, word by word. Maitreya vacha. Maitreya said. Iti. Thus. Samatuhu. Of his mother. Niravadyam. Uncontaminated. Ipsitam. Desire. Vishamya. After hearing. Pumsam. Of people. Apavarga. Cessation of bodily existence. Vardhanam, increasing. Diya, mentally. Abhinandya, having thanked. Atmavatam, interested in self-realization. Satam, of the transcendentalist. Gatihi, the path. Babashe, he explained. Ishat, slightly. Smita, smiling. Shobhita, beautiful. Ananaha, his face. Maitreya said, after hearing of his mother's uncontaminated desire for transcendental realization, the Lord thanked her within himself for her questions, and thus, his face smiling, he explained the path of the transcendentalists who are interested in self-realization. Purport. Devahuti has surrendered her confession of material entanglement and her desire to gain release. Her questions to Lord Kapila are very interesting for persons who are actually trying to get liberation from material entanglement and attain the perfectional stage of human life. Unless one is interested in understanding his spiritual life or his constitutional position, and unless he also feels inconvenience in material existence, his human form of life is spoiled. One who does not care for these transcendental necessities of life and simply engages like an animal in eating, sleeping, fearing, and mating has spoiled his life. Lord Kapila was very much satisfied by his mother's questions because the answers stimulate one's desire for liberation from the conditional life of material existence. Such questions are called apavarga vardhanam. Those who have actual spiritual interest are called sat, or devotees. Satam prasangat. Sat means that which eternally exists, and asat means that which is not eternal. Unless one is situated on the spiritual platform, he is not sat, he is asat. The asat stands on a platform which will not exist, but anyone who stands on the spiritual platform will exist eternally. As spirit soul, everyone exists eternally, but the asat has accepted the material world as his shelter, and therefore he is full of anxiety. Asad Gahan. The incompatible situation of the spirit soul has the false idea of enjoying matter. The incompatible situation of the spirit soul who has the false idea of enjoying matter is the cause of the soul's being asat. Actually, the spirit soul is not asat. As soon as one is conscious of this fact and takes to Krishna consciousness, he becomes sat. Satam Gatihi, the path of the eternal, is very interesting to persons who are after liberation. And his lordship, Kapila, began to speak about the path. Lordship. Om Gyanati Varandasya Gyananjana Shalakya Chakshavan Malatamena Tasmai Shigrave Namha Mukam Kadivachalam Pangam Mangati Grimya Kapatam Ham Vande Shigurundi Janam Ancha Kapatu Vishak Basan Vevacha Pitikanam Pavani Bill Vaishnavi Bill Manamaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Shastri Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Read that one more time. Maitreya said, after hearing of his mother's uncontaminated desire for transcendental realization, the Lord thanked her within himself for her questions, and thus, his face smiling, he explained the path of the transcendentalists who are interested in self-realization. So there's this word vardhanam in the word by word, or in the verse and the word by word translation. So we have Govardhan, right? So Vardhan says increasing, or also means nourishing. So this Govardhan hill, Go means cows, and Vardhana means to nourish. So it's the hill that nourishes the cows with special grass, transcendental grass, and then very special milk was produced, and Krishna has that milk, and all the devotees have that milk. We can imagine how wonderful that milk must be. I mean, even we get real milk around here and everybody goes crazy. I remember we used to have the milk from the farm, right? SanDiego farm. And all the brahmacharis, they all, run down and drink, so many glasses each, so many cups. So, of course, it was offered to Krishna. But you can imagine that milk from Govardhan, from the cows that eat the special grass from Govardhan Hill and produce that milk, must be quite amazing. And Smita too. I was just thinking about the word Smita. There's a Swami. His name is Smita Krishna Swami. So Smita means smiling. So smiling Krishna. Krishna Smita Krishna, smiling. And you got lordship right at the end. Because I always wondered about that lordship. Because you hear devotees sometimes they say, oh, they're lordships, Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra, or like Kanchan Bala, she brings the sweets on Friday, and she says, for their lordships, So I was thinking, this is like, it almost sounds like like you're in England or something, right? Oh, their lordships, or sirs, or whatever. But I guess Prabhupada uses it here, so there you go. Bona fide lordship, Kapila. But in the purport, Prabhupada, he's talking about Devahuti has surrendered her confession of material entanglement and her desire to gain release. So yeah, she confesses, okay, of course she's not fallen, she's humble, she's the mother of God, for God's sake. She's the mother of Kapila, so how can she be fallen? She's not fallen, but she's feeling herself fallen. Just like Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he was absolutely a pure devotee, but he was feeling himself very fallen, and the Chaitanya Charitamrita is expressing that. So she's surrenders her confession. She's saying, I am fallen, I'm in this I'm being afflicted by Maya, and so on, so what to do, and she wants to gain release. So yeah, this is the process that we confess, okay, to Krishna or to devotee. Yeah, I'm fallen, and what should I do? Right? What should I do? This is a very important thing to do, actually. And we see, like Prabhupada mentions, he specifically mentions in the Nectar of Instruction that the certain Christians, he says Christians, Catholics, Christians, they go to church, right, and then they confess. Right, I'm sorry, I did this, I did that, and please, to the priest, right? And what is it called? The confession? Confessional? Yeah. Confessional, okay. What did they call it? Confession box?
Yeah.
Box, okay. Confessional box, yeah. So yeah, they go and they confess. And then he mentions that, but then they go out and they do the same thing or similar things, and then they come back and confess. It's like and he gives the example of the elephant bathing. The elephant goes and takes a nice bath in the river, and then comes out and rolls in the dust. So there's not much, you could say, use for that. So yeah, people say that these material urges, you could say, or the urges for material engagement, or the urges for materialism, for us for the living entity to engage in degrading activities. It is irresistible, it is unstoppable, and we cannot help ourselves. What can we do? Right? It's just like eating, right? Human beings, they have to eat. I mean, everybody has to eat if they want to live. So, or sleeping, right? We have to sleep. Or other things we have to do, right? Call of nature, or whatever we have to do. So they say, it's in the same category, right? Are these, you could say, sinful propensities, right? Like in the Bible, the 10 Commandments. Hey, it's kind of like built within us. We cannot help ourselves. So what to do? What can I didn't I didn't create myself, and I didn't make myself like this. This is just who I am, right? Blame God type of thing. So this is a very interesting thought process that people go through, and it's actually real. A lot of people think like this. It is like a lot of people think like this. It's not just we're saying this in a talk or whatever, or class, but a lot of people think like this, and even even the leaders think like this in certain traditions, leaders. Of course, Prabhupada mentions Hindus and Muslims going to mosque, going to temple, and then going out and doing nonsense. So it's not only you could say the small guys thinking like this, but also the big guys, the big leaders thinking like this. And there's been many philosophers or religionists in the past within Christian or Catholic tradition, different branches, that have, there's a word called expound, what is it? Expound? Expounded?
Exposition?
Expounded this idea.
There's also espouse.
Espouse, that's what I was going to use.
Espouse.
Espouse, okay, not espouse. Espouse this idea. And one fellow was the name of Martin Luther. You know him? Okay, everyone knows him.
Printed a lot of Bibles.
He printed a lot of Bibles. Okay. So Martin Luther, not Martin Luther King, not Martin Luther King Jr., but Martin Luther, he lived 1483 to 1546. Says the arch-defender of the Catholic Church. Yeah, anyways, that's another thing. But. So he was a little bit of a revolutionary, right? Actually was, and they excommunicated from the church and all like that. But one thing he wrote here, I'll read. So it says, Luther concluded that no one, he least of all, was capable of living up to the Old Testament's commandments, as he was later to state. And this, I'll read what he says. It's in Tamal Krishna Goswami's book, Hare Krishna SMU, Southern Methodist University, one of the articles. So it says, the commandments show us, so this is Luther, Martin Luther. The commandments show us what we ought to do, but do not give us the power to do it. They are intended to teach man to know himself, that through them he may recognize his inability to do good and may despair over his own inability. This is why they are called the Old Testament and constitute the Old Testament. For example, the commandment, you shall not covet, is a command which proves us all to be sinners. Right? Right? There's a BMW parked in neighbor's yard, park drive. Oh, hey, I like that, or whatever. Is the command which proves us all to be sinners, for no one can avoid coveting, no matter how much he may struggle against it. Therefore, in order not to covet and to fulfill the commandment, a man is compelled to despair himself, to seek the help which he does not find in himself elsewhere and from someone else. And then it goes on a little bit here. Luther found that, so this is not him speaking anymore. Luther found that help in the New Testament. While searching Romans, he was struck by the words of verse 17. He who through faith is righteous shall live. It occurred to him that it was faith alone, not works, which could redeem one. It was a moment of awakening for Luther. And then it goes on and on and on like that. So it's through faith alone, not by works. So in other words, what he's saying is okay, the commandments are there, but I can't follow, and nor can anyone. That's what he's saying. And then that's the Old Testament, right? But the New Testament says by faith alone, not by works.
And we're agreeing with that?
No, we're not agreeing with that. I'm going into that now. So yeah, so this idea that it's by faith alone and not by works. Okay, yeah, obviously faith is important, because without faith, none of us will be sitting here, and there's no sense of even visiting the temple, right? Many people don't visit the temple because there's no faith. There's no faith in the holy name. They think, it's just some ordinary sound. There's no faith in the deity, just statue. There's no faith in devotees, or just ordinary guys and girls, right? There's nothing I could gain here. Let me just go downtown to the bar or something. I'll gain more there. They have faith in the bar for their happiness. So faith is obviously necessary, and faith is what actually propels us to actually engage in any type of practice, spiritual practice, at least some type of faith. But it is not only by faith that I just have faith, and then I just don't do anything about it. I'm just sinful as ever, and I can't give up I can't follow the commandments of God. But it's by work. We try, and Krishna gives us the power to. So it's a combination of both faith and work. So some people, they're in the category of they just do everything and anything, and then they feel that they actually know, or they actually have faith in themselves that what they're doing is not wrong. Like, this is normal, right? What I do is normal. And then there's people who
they have a sense of what they're doing is wrong. In other words, they have a sense of their shortcomings. They could see their shortcomings. They could see their faults. And, okay, I may be doing this, I may be doing that, and it's wrong. And then there's people who see what they're doing is wrong. In other words, the second class of people, they see what they're doing is wrong, but they don't try to overcome it. They just say, okay, well, what I'm doing is wrong, and well, anyways, what to do. And the third class people, they see what they're doing is wrong, and then they have a desire to do something about it. But still, they're not doing something about it, right? Like people, they may be super overweight, right? And they think, oh, this is horrible. Look at myself, and I used to be so in shape, and now I've eaten so many, the classic, right? Twinkies. That's a classic thing, but I don't know if people eat. They still do. That's still popular, I guess, for some people. I think a Twinkie could last like, how many years? 10?
It's almost eternal.
Yeah, it's almost eternal, right? Nitya. And now I need to get back in shape. I need to start running. I need to start walking, something. But still, they're not doing anything about it. Okay, it's just in the mind. They're dreaming, right? Too much mode of ignorance. Mode of ignorance means you're just dreaming. I'll do this, I'll do that, but nothing happens. And then the other class is that, okay, they see what I'm doing, I see my faults, what I'm doing is wrong, this and that, and I desire to get free of these things, and then I actually do something about it. I actually try to do something about it. So this class of people, this actually constitutes some intelligence. That means they have some intelligence. I'm not saying like absolutely pure intelligence or transcendental intelligence, but just intelligence that, okay, I have some problems, I see that, and I need to do something about it, I'm desiring to do something about it, and they actually take some steps. And I'm talking about in the spiritual, you could say in the spiritual sense, all these spiritual sense, not just physical or bodily. So the idea is that we want people like that. We want people like that in the Krishna consciousness movement. We want people like that they see their shortcomings and they desire to get rid of them, and they do something about it. That's what the type of people we want. We don't want the, people who are just can't, they're just, they're people with such little intelligence, like phony, superficial, right? Because, and why don't we want people like that? You could say, okay, well, gradually they'll come up. Yeah, hopefully they come up. If they do come up, great. But we don't want people like that as core members, you could say, or as leaders, because that's a failure of religion. If we see people who are leading or whatever it is, or core members who are blind, then that's a failure. So, in other words, a religion continues, real religion continues, or real movement continues, spiritual bona fide authorized movement continues by having educated, intelligent congregation that so that's how that will make it continue, having an educated, intelligent congregation, and what to speak of leaders, core leaders. So this is really important, that we ourselves, we don't cheat ourselves, say, oh, okay, I'm all good and everything's good, and if we're thinking like that, then that's not good. Because even people who are quite far down the path, they even think, oh, I still have work to do. Oh, I still have work to do. And even in extreme cases of pure devotees, they'll say, there's like Devahuti, she's thinking, oh, I'm fallen. I mean, is Devahuti really fallen? It's just interesting because, sometimes devotees don't think they're fallen, right? Like practitioners in modern world, they think, oh, yeah. But Devahuti thinks is thinking she's fallen. Krishnadas Kaviraj is thinking they're fallen. Narottam Das Thakur, but all the acharyas are thinking they're fallen, that they're not qualified. So this is, we have to be very careful. We develop the right idea. So these questions and answers that Lord Kapiladev and Devahuti they'll be discussing. This is actually the most wonderful thing we could engage ourselves in, or one of the most wonderful things we can engage ourselves in, is that it is a conversation between God and Devahuti, Lord Kapiladev and Devahuti. So, people are very interested in hearing all types of things. Like I was talking with a person the other day, and they were telling me they're going to drive to LA, and they're going to listen to this news radio. I said, oh, really? Okay. Interesting. And I said, how long does this go for? And he said 3 hours. 3 hours up there. It's every day, 3 hours, as far as I understood. I was like, wow, that's pretty intense. It's like, can you imagine having a Bhagavatam class every day for 3 hours? Or Krishna or Chaitanya Charitamrita? I mean, we make a lot of advancement, like hearing so much from the books. But yeah, 3 hours he was going to listen to, and I was thinking, God, how is that so interesting? You could listen for 3 hours, right? Anyways, it was pretty wild. And there's so many TV shows, radio shows, movies like that, where people could engage their time in. So instead of listening to the radio for 3 hours, we could be listening to Amala Bhakta Swami's Chaitanya Charitamrita reading for 3 hours, for example. Or we could listen to some lectures for 3 hours. Or we could read for 3 hours, for example, and hear the conversations that real great personalities have in relation to transcendental matters. So for us to have that opportunity, that is absolutely amazing. This is a great boon, a great gift we have. And Srila Prabhupada, he really endeavored to give that, to give this gift of the Srimad Bhagavatam, and every day, right, or every night, from 11 to 1 or 2 in the morning, however few hours he did like that, or however many hours he did in the morning, he was spending time translating. And he gave the example, oh, why am I doing this? Why am I translating? And he said, no one's forcing me. He said, no one's forcing me to get up every morning early or stay up at late at night and translate. But he says, I do it because I have a taste, right? I have a taste. And therefore, it says, devotional ecstasies, Prabhupada's purports of the devotional ecstasies. So, just as Prabhupada had a taste in translating the books, we are also meant to have a taste in reading the books or hearing from the books, develop that taste. And then there's some chance of, and it is assured if we engage in the process, that we'll become purified completely. And we'll be not, be bewildered and bombarded and completely captured by our material senses, just like eating, sleeping, fearing, mating. I mean, people spend their... Of course, you could say this is simplified, right? Oh, this is not everything people do, right? Eating, sleeping, mating, fearing. Whatever, they engage in this, engage in that. They engage in, listen to the news, radio, 3 hours. They do so many things. But these are big things, actually, that people become bewildered by. Like eating, I mean, people, there's some guys, they're like professional eaters. They just travel the world and they eat all types of stuff, And there's TV shows.
The top eater in the world, he got jaw cancer.
Oh, really?
Eating so much.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's funny.
Not a success formula, was it?
Jaw cancer. And they eat all types of gross stuff. I mean, They travel around, eat all the grossest stuff, you know. And people, yeah, they tour all around all the restaurants, and they have restaurant week here, whatever it is. It's, some other people are just, revolve their life around eating, or sleeping, or fearing, or mating, whatever it is. So we won't become bewildered by these things. Like the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, they're not bewildered by these things at all. I mean, they transcended all these. Eat very little, sleep very little, like that. So Krishna consciousness gives us the ability to properly focus, just like Mahatma Gandhi, right? Of course, we don't absolutely agree with everything Mahatma Gandhi was about, but one thing that was said about Mahatma Gandhi is that through his whole campaign and what he was doing, right, trying to free up India and all that, he was, the example is given that, at a point he was celibate, detached from the wife, and then he gave that example that through the focus, you can really focus by doing such a thing. So, but whether one's a brahmachari, sannyasi, grihastha, like that, the point is that Krishna consciousness gives us the ability to not become bewildered by so many external things and actually focus on what's important. And what is important is us becoming devotees, and also us moving from the asat platform and being attached to the asat sangha, right, the materialistic association of this world, and moving to the sat sangha, or the spiritual association. That's the important thing. So that is our mission, for us to become devotees, pure devotees, and for us to create facilities in which people can have an opportunity to become devotees. And this is a life mission, to become pure devotees, and also to create nice facilities for people to become pure devotees. That's a life mission. It involves a lot. Recently, some guys, they've been asking, or sometimes they ask me in general, but which I kind of get the idea. Maybe they're probably thinking, what would it like to be a monk, right? Because they ask me, how do you become a monk? What's the process, type of thing? What does it entail? What are the qualifications? And that kind of hints at, like, hey, well, maybe I should. Yeah, maybe I should do it, because if they weren't thinking about it, maybe they're not, maybe they are, but whatever. But a lot of the times you can kind of sense that, young guy, hey, what's the qualification to become a monk? So people are thinking about becoming monks, or looking for spiritual answers, or whatever it is, but there just has to be someone there to provide that facility. Just like Arjai Chaitanya in LA, he came up with this idea, beamonk.org, website, Bhishmadev Prabhu designed. I looked at it, very nice website. And the idea is be a monk till Monday, right? It's like a retreat, few-day retreat, and people he meets out on books, he gives them little cards, and be a monk. And he said he got many applications through that process, 20, 30 applications, so many applications of men and also women. They have an LA ashram who, mostly women, okay, who want to check out the ashram life. And some of them stay, like they got a bhakt up in LA, I forgot his name, but he's there now. He's been there for a while from that program. So it's creating facilities like that to help people become liberated. And this is the whole point Kapila Dev and Devahuti's discussing for our benefit. So does anyone have any...
Yeah, quick comment, but I think you have a choice. We have a choice. Be a monk or be a monkey. It's really quite simple.
I was just thinking that you were saying about eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. I was getting some bedding. I wanted to get a pillow and some sheets and a pad for Yadabar Prabhu when he was sleeping. And I saw they were having a sale at Sears. So I figured they're closing down the shop. I was happened to be out in that area anyway. Okay, great. I was amazed at how much people can spend on a mattress.
$1,700 for a mattress. I mean, it's got all these, they've got to slice through the thing out. It's got all these different layers and does this and that. It's inconceivable.
Yeah.
How much, and when we went to that movie, you know, the Hare Krishna movie, did you see how many restaurants were in that mall, that or little, I mean, there's Greek, there's Norwegian, there's, you know,
Yeah, a lot.
just for the tongue. I mean, there were about 10 of them, different little, all for the tongue. So you're right. I mean, they may read poetry or go see a thing of Hamlet or whatever, but it's the same. What is the content of that so-called arts and culture? It's all eating, sleeping, mating, and the thing. And one other thing I wanted to throw in, unless you want to say something. You were saying about, you know, which was a good, some people, it's like there's living entities. Some living entities are non-moving, of the moving and non-moving, and the most are uncivilized. There's a progression. So most people don't even know they're doing anything wrong. If they're doing something wrong, well, what can I do about it? Or they have some philosophy that, you know, well, Jesus will save me, as you were saying in the beginning. But I was just thinking, in the Bible, it says very clearly, he meets that Mary Magdalene, who was a prostitute, and she tests him out. I mean, not that we refer to the Bible and all that, because it's so many, what he's been through. But he says, she tests him. She says, who's my husband? And he says back to her, you've had many husbands, which is a polite way of saying, hey, you're a prostitute, you know? And it's a whole thing, and she becomes converted. And what to do? I've got all these sinful deeds I've done. He said, you're forgiven. He said, but go forth and sin no more. Jesus never says, you know, just have faith and we'll all work out. And, you know, when I get to heaven, I'm going to see them pearly gates. When I get to heaven, I'm going to eat them chops and steaks. No, he doesn't say that. You need to change. So you're right. I'm just confirming your point. And they just turned it into this, well, nobody can do it. Nobody's perfect. We're all, Jesus will save me. He pays the bill. And great. I'll just cruise on because I believe I'll go back to God. But it requires work. One last thing. Multimount that you told me. They were coming out of a pandal, you know, one of those fantastic pandals, 25,000, 35,000 people. Prabhu speaking like a lion. When he was leaving, one man fell, you know, Dandavats, and grabbed Prabhupada's feet and said, Swami, Swami, save me. Prabhupada said, I can save you, but you have to do the work.
Yeah.
Just trying to help you get across the line.
Where did you hear this one about the pearly gates and the?
Oh, I forget where that's.
Where that mantra's from? Or that saying's from? You don't remember? Okay, that's an interesting one. Yeah, I don't know what people are thinking. What they're going to get to heaven or.
Well, Mark Twain used to say, you know, heaven for the climate, hell for the company. He used to say there's the greatest transformation. That people are fighting like dogs and cats, and you know, and all of a sudden in the transition between here and heaven, they're going to get along great, and their character's going to change. I mean, why?
Yeah.
It's just fantasy.
Yeah, I was listening the other day. I guess Tamal Krishna Goswami met he met a Catholic priest in Philippines. And he was asked, Maharaj,
his name is Cardinal Sin.
Okay.
That was really his name.
Really?
Yeah, Cardinal Sin. He was the primary cardinal for the Philippines.
Maharaj was asking him, what does God do in heaven? Or what is he doing in heaven? And then he said, the priest said, oh, he's sitting on a throne. And then Maharaj said, oh, where? And he said, in a mansion. You know, so he's sitting on the throne in a mansion. But aside from that, there wasn't much description of the activities or what's going on there. So that's quite interesting. But we see in
a lot of harps.
A lot of harps. Bhagavatam has a lot of description. Yes.
Is it more, or I suppose, anyway, should we put more emphasis on making as many devotees as possible? Like, branching out the movement more and more and more. or this topic came up recently, some devotees, or trying to maintain and advance the devotees we have and nurture them, because there's this conversation sometimes at the cost of not nurturing the devotees we had.